Welcome back to Battlefield 2042. In this video I want to talk to you about the investors call. And just quickly before we go any further into the video, if you're not currently subbed to the channel, make sure you do sub, turn notifications on. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, all support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to support me further as a creator, then check out the links in the description, and let's get into it. So starting off, we're going to be looking through Tom Henderson's Twitter. There's very interesting stuff to come from this. And then we also have an article from The Verge that I want to go through. So starting off, there is no mention of Battlefield 2042 in their earnings slide. So with me taking a look at this picture, this is 2021 year in gaming. Hundreds of millions of players around the world came together and connected through our games, live services and content last year. Here are a few notable highlights. But the thing is, they said that millions of players came together and connected through our games. How are you supposed to connect in 2042 when there's no voice chat? All this sort of stuff is why the game was pretty much not mentioned at all. And as I said in my rant about the delay, they only released that info and told us about the delay. So they only communicated because they didn't want to speak about it in the investors call. So, a global community of new players, 30% from Europe, 25% from US, 22.5% Asia and Pacific, 15.7% South and Latin America. Engagement highlights, and this one's interesting. 322 billion pings placed in Apex Legends, 1.2 billion hours played in The Sims, 22.3 billion goals scored in FIFA, 9.4 billion touchdowns in Madden, 493 million fights played in UFC, and 923 million ships destroyed in Star Wars Squadrons. So when Squadrons is getting a highlight and Battlefield 2042 isn't, it shows you just how bad this is. It gives you that scale of how bad they messed the game up. So Tom Henderson also says, it's nice to see EA admit Battlefield 2042 was a launch failure. They addressed this internally over 2 months ago. EA's quarterly revenue is thanked due to Apex Legends and FIFA. I mean, Apex Legends is now $1 billion series, like game or whatever you want to call it. And FIFA, I mean, it's been going for years and years now, and they just make more and more money off it each year. The same with Madden. The amount of people like Angry Joe that puts out their angry rants and stuff and says, like, you got to stop falling for this stuff, it actually attracts more players. Or the games themselves attract more players, and in turn, EA make more money, and the games never improve. No mention of Battlefield 2042 sales, which is something they generally report on after release. And then it was said that the sales of Battlefield 2042 were disappointing, and Tom's past reports state there were 4.23 million players total, including the trial on Thanksgiving, which was a week after the global launch. And then reduction in net booking predictions was due to Battlefield 2042, so that game or this game will affect net bookings for the short term. And then EA said Battlefield will account for less than 10% of net bookings and less than 5% next year. An analyst told me 2 weeks ago that EA doesn't look at Battlefield as crucial to the company's success. Looks like he was right. EA has refused to give sale numbers for Battlefield 2042. Once again, reiterating, Battlefield is less than 10% than our portfolio, so not sure what you'll do with those numbers. And then one really actual good thing is EA is not looking at NFTs and the metaverse at this moment in time. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't say they'll never look at them, but for right now, they're not bothering with NFTs. And then again, EA, games are a great way to keep connected with our friends, launches Battlefield 2042 without VoIP. And then there are more quotes. What will you do in FIFA beyond playing soccer? What will you do in NFS beyond driving a car? What will you do in Battlefield beyond glitching through the floor? And then Tom also says EA sounds like it wants to acquire instead of to be acquired. And then with EA saying Battlefield will be less than 5% of their net bookings next year, just proves they don't have any long-term plans for Battlefield 2042. I would have expected a higher net booking prediction if they planned for a BR or something. So it is starting to look more and more likely that after they have released this Year 1 Pass content, even though it's going to be released outside of Year 1, it's looking very likely that the game will be abandoned like Battlefield 5 was. And they always sit there and say, oh, we're so hard done by, the community's toxic and all this sort of stuff. I mean, you've had enough time, you've made enough money, where's the issue? Your developers just aren't competent enough to get this stuff done. But moving on now from Tom Henderson to The Verge. EA says Battlefield 2042 did not meet expectations. The company notes that it is fully committed to the game's future. Yeah, fucking pull the other one. We've heard it all before. For the most part, EA's most recent quarterly earnings statement was a positive one. The game's publisher says that the fiscal quarter ending on December 31st, 2021 was the largest quarter in the company's history for net bookings, underlying profitability and cash generation, according to the CFO Blake. Games like Apex Legends and FIFA continue to be hits, but there was one noticeable issue: Battlefield 2042. The launch of the game did not meet expectations. EA CEO Andrew Wilson said during the call, "The game, which launched in November after a last-minute delay, was built on the idea of scale, with gigantic multiplayer battles and even features like dynamic weather in the form of tornadoes." It's not dynamic weather, that's one type of weather. There's nothing dynamic if you're literally rotating one thing. And according to Wilson, that ambition, combined with the challenges of developing a game remotely, are what led to Battlefield 2042's ongoing issues. Then there's a quote: "Battlefield 2042 was always an ambitious game, and our teams pushed to innovate across many dimensions. Innovation isn't what the community wanted, including massive scale and 128 player matches, new modes, new dynamic gameplay, and more." I mean, new modes, what All Out Warfare has 2. And that is what Andrew Wilson explained. "Developing this game with our teams working from home for nearly 2 years ultimately proved to be challenging." That's a load of bullshit. You have the same fucking equipment or very similar when you're working from home in games development, and other companies are able to do it fine. Not only that, working from home for nearly 2 years? No, lockdowns have been pretty much ending throughout the last 2 years. And not only that, even if it is a challenge to develop the game, then you delay the game until it is ready, or you at least put it through QA teams and do it properly to see what stuff needs fixing before you do release it. If it's been that challenging, and it's actually been that challenging due to lockdowns and stuff, then why the fuck are you still releasing it? Through our processes for testing and preparation, we believed the experience was ready to be put in our players' hands. No, you didn't. Not a single person actually played this before it came out. We launched with strong stability, however, as more players experienced the full game, it became clear there were unanticipated performance issues that we would need to address. How can you not anticipate that millions of people are going to play a Battlefield title? And we hear this every single problem. EA have always said it. When Anthem came out, like one of the trials or something for Anthem, there were really, really bad server issues, and they said, "Oh, we wasn't expecting this many players to jump on the servers." You know your sort of figures, and you know how big your company is. You should be expecting this stuff. It's not your first ever release. You haven't just started up your company. Earlier today, EA announced that it was delaying the game's upcoming season to this summer, which it said gives us the time to focus on improving the Battlefield 2042 experience while finalising the development of our seasonal content to ensure that it all reaches our standard for quality. So if you have a standard for quality, why the fuck is 2042 as broken as it is? And they want to focus on improving the experience while finalising the development of the seasonal content. So why is there no talk of adding renewal back to the Xbox One and PS4 versions of the game? Why is there no talk of All Out Warfare actually working and being stable? Despite the 2042's early struggles, Wilson says the publisher is fully committed to realising the full potential of this game. But I'm pretty sure every single company in this world will tell you they are fully committed to realising the full potential of this game. And how many AAA games have we had in the last 5 years that have reached their full potential? I'm pretty sure there hasn't been a single game. No matter what game you play, there are issues. There are big problems in most, if not all, AAA titles. It's an absolute pile of shit listening to any of this stuff they say. Yet as we've seen in threads on Twitter, as we see from certain content creators, people just fall for anything. No matter, like, you put shit in a sandwich, no matter how much you try and cover it up, at the end of the day, there's still shit in that sandwich. So many people have this carrot on a stick dangled in front of them and they jump to it. EA say we're committed to realising the full potential of this game. And you've got people out there like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for the future of Battlefield 2042. It's going to be so amazing." I even saw someone say, "Oh, if you look at No Man's Sky 6 months after the game launched, for 6 months after the game launched, they were completely silent. 6 years later, as one of the greatest games in the world, there's no concerns about Battlefield 2042 at all." But you realise they're completely different companies. This is EA. EA are not bothered about Battlefield anymore. That doesn't make them their money. FIFA Ultimate Team packs and Apex Legends skins and battle passes and stuff is what makes them their money. If Battlefield was a franchise that produced enough money, yeah, they would fix it. They would be very quick to fix it. But because it doesn't make them anywhere near as much money or have enough community highlights for them to showcase, they don't give a shit. And for those people that are still putting trust in them, 2042 is going to be amazing, just give it a year, look at Battlefield 5. Their previous Battlefield title got abandoned, fully abandoned, before they released all the content. And you seriously believe they're going to realise the full potential of the game? People need to stop accepting this stuff. EA has said themselves it didn't meet their expectations. And what happens to a lot of titles that don't make a company enough money? They get dropped. Look at Anthem. Instead of putting more money into it, it was a game that people wouldn't have paid much attention to even after an overhaul because the damage was already done. So because it wasn't going to make them enough money, they dropped it. I don't know how long it's going to take for a lot more people to realise. There are some people that know exactly what I'm talking about. They fully understand it. But then you have people on the other side of the fence that are still willing to give them a chance. They took your $120, they wiped their ass with it, and now they're sitting there laughing at you. What they have done with this is unacceptable, and there is no way they are going to redeem themselves ever. My opinion right now is they will start off the content in the summer if it's ready. It still has a chance of being delayed again. When they do start it, they will release bare minimum for the game, just so that they have still released what they needed to. And then after a year of content, so for specialists, no idea how many maps or anything like that, but once they have released that stuff, they're going to abandon the game. There will not be a year 2 for this game. However, if people do sit there and fall for their shit and purchase into Season 1 when it does launch, the game will continue, because they'll find new ways to chuck microtransactions in. So we need to be the ones to stand up and say this is not happening. When Season 1 drops, do not buy into it. Hold them accountable for their mistakes and their actions of robbing players. And show EA and DICE that enough is enough. We want better. We deserve better. And what we're going to do on that note is leave the video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about it in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed it.